Hello, welcome everybody to the third and final day of PyData Global. And we are going to give it 1 minute to let people kind of filter in, but in that minute, I will introduce our final keynote for the conference, and we're very honored to have Noor here with us. So yeah, I'm going to give it about 30 seconds. In the meantime, I'd love to hear where everyone's from right now, and I'll start. I'm coming from Austin, Texas. Cyprus, awesome. Slovenia, need to get there. I hear it's beautiful. Tokyo, awesome. Man, I really love how global this conference really is. This is awesome. Okay, I think we can kick it off. And so, yeah, our next and final keynote for PyData Global is Noor. We are currently witnessing a shift from AI exploration to AI engineering. Our next speaker, Noor, is at the forefront of this transition. With a career built at the intersection of massive scale data and leadership, she helps organizations navigate the complex engineering required to stabilize large language models. Her work focuses on critical architecture required to eliminate hallucinations and ensure data fidelity at scale. She just doesn't understand code, she understands the ecosystem. A featured voice at BBC and global technical stages. Please welcome Noor Aftab. Take it away.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, PyData Global. It is a privilege to close this conference with you. To Jim's question, I'm joining from Seattle, where it's 7 a.m., and I'm joining with my first cup of coffee. So many of you are joining us globally. Thank you. Good morning, good day, good evening, wherever in the world you're joining us from. I have been a developer for 16 years. I started with a very obscure and lesser known language, Pascal, moved my way up to C, C++, Java, and the stack kept growing, bigger, wider. In the last 5 years, I've been associated with AI. I've been an AI researcher, went into a completely different stack, LangChain, Llama Index, Crew AI, everything agentic, MCP. And never in my 16 years have I felt a shift so large that it changes the story for all of us, except in 2025. Today, we have a number that changes everything. This number comes to us from the CEO of GitHub, Thomas Dumke. Today, there are 100 million developers. That's roughly the population of Japan, or a third of the population of United States. But what's more interesting is, on this platform, we are racing towards our first billion. And what is powering this revolution? It is Python. And why wouldn't it? Because Python is the language of AI. It is the language of web, the language of front end, the language of back end. In 2024, Python dethroned JavaScript to become the most used language on GitHub. And the magic keeps growing. That means everyone joining this keynote, whether you're here live or watching the recording, you are not just writing the code. You are the architects of global economy. You are the engine of AI. I see this engine from two different sides. First, as a technology leader at Amazon, I see massive industrial scale systems we built. And second, in my role as the chair of the NUM Focus Code of Conduct Working Group. Under the NUM Focus umbrella with 300 open source projects and thousands of developers, I see the humans behind the code. And we are here today because we are building the most powerful technology in history. Python is everywhere. Development is everywhere. And today, finally, we can answer the two big questions. In the age of AI, is it still worth to become a developer, to learn to code? And if so, what is the language of development? You can see the upward trajectory. 1 billion developers. Let that number sink in. With the global population as 9 billion, that means 11% of the world population would soon be developers. So it's a great time to learn to code. And if you're learning to code, or you're building your stack with a second powerful language, the language of AI, the language of front end, back end, that language is Python. And today, I'm going to share your story, what engineers do, in a way you might not have seen before. So, this is the Apollo mission right after Neil Armstrong landed on space. Of course, this is an adaptation of it, but look at what happens to a routine NASA mission 200,000 miles away from home. And then we will look at the role of engineers. Houston, we had a problem. Those 5 words every engineer knows, but the history behind those 5 words. It is 200,000 miles away from Earth. T plus 56 hours. A routine mission has turned to chaos. An oxygen tank has exploded. The main bus voltage dropped to 0, and 3 astronauts, drifting in dark, breathing their own carbon dioxide. I want you to look at the phrase at the bottom of your screen. Houston, we had a problem. But I want you to focus on the first word, Houston. In that moment, Houston wasn't a city. Houston was the ground crew. It was the thousands of engineers down here on Earth. They were the ones reading the telemetry, debugging the code, and hacking the system to make sure all 3 men made it safely back to Earth. I start here today with Houston because in the age of AI, you are the ground crew. What you build matters more than any model, be it GPT, Claude, Gemini, your favorite model. If the model is the rocket engine, then you are the guiding system. You decide what data gets fed in, you decide how the data is labeled, and you decide what checks run before deployment. We're not just here writing the code. We are defining the logic for the next generation of healthcare, finance, and human decision making. Joining you in this journey, I am Noor Aftab. I'm an AI researcher and data scientist. I am a technologist at Amazon Web Services. Outside of Amazon, I take on many roles. One of them is serving as a chair of the NUM Focus Code of Conduct Working Group, where under the NUM Focus umbrella, we have 300 plus open source projects, including our very favorite ones, Pandas, NumPy. And every single day, me and my team, we work round the clock to ensure that these spaces are open, inclusive, and collaborative for the current and future generation of developers. I also serve as the Vice President of Society of Women Engineers here in the Pacific Northwest region. If you're from here, a big hi, come join us at one of our events. I'm also a member at the American Statistical Association. The list goes on, but as an AI researcher, I have been looking at models. I have been wrangling their outputs, giving them inputs to see where the model can break, where it hallucinates, to make the model safe, to put guardrails around the model. And this has led me to a 2-year research, which I'm sharing here with you today. So this research and these views of today are my own and not my employer's. With that out of the way, we can finally move on. In my 16 years of development, nothing inspires me more as the next generation. This is what forces me to take on newer and newer roles. Every time I decide I'll step down, I end up taking more roles because it is our joint responsibility to make sure that the future developers have the world, have the LLMs, have the AI that is additive, that is inclusive, and that builds a community. This is a picture from code.org with our friends monks, and there were 5 amazing, brilliant women entering the field of computer science. Raise your hand, put it in the chat if you have been inspired by the next generation. So these young women, they are high schoolers, but already working on building recognition models for California fires before they spread, or making economic empowerment for everyone, or on voice recognition models. They inspired and inspired and inspired a room of 50 plus technologists. And we reached a point where we asked them what their problems were. We thought we'll get standard answers like we're GPU poor, or balancing Roblox with work and studies is a hard problem to solve. Instead, what they said gave us a punch in the gut because they talked about the lack of female role models. They hinted that when women go into the workforce, for equal role, equal job, they're not paid equal. And they talked about imposter syndrome. I worked at Amazon, and then I saw FANG companies. The representation was there. What was the problem? So this embarked me on a 2-year research. And that's what I'm sharing here today. Based on my research, I can say AI has a listening problem. I can stand here and talk all day about the problem, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to make it interactive, and I'm going to show you. So here is how large language models work. They are loosely modeled after the human brain. When the human brain sees a picture, it recognizes it in a few milliseconds if the picture is seen often. So it's easy for us to say cat, dog, room. And now I'm going to show you 5 images to do something that you've done all your life. Identify the image and put it in the chat. Simple. I'm not going to give you a few milliseconds. I'm going to give you exactly 30 seconds to identify 5 images. Let's go. In 3, 2, 1, your first data set If you know the first image, please put that in the chat. Second, doing good, people. Third, amazing. Fourth, we have about 10 seconds to go. Fifth image. Awesome. Now, to make sure we are on the same page, the first image is Elon Musk, followed by Microsoft co founder Bill Gates. Third up is Jeff Bezos. Even without the glasses and the chains, we know that's Mark Zuckerberg. And finally, the CEO of NVIDIA, the Taylor Swift of developers, Jensen Huang. You crushed it. What an amazing recall. You're doing so well. I have a second data set for you. The rules are same. You have 30 seconds and you just need to identify the 5 images on the screen. 3, 2, 1. All right. Please put in the name of the first image in the chat. We can shout it out. Second. Okay, third has quite a lot of recognition. Fourth. Fifth. What just happened? This is the data set of women that are making an impact in data and AI. Their work is heavily documented, and we use their projects on a daily basis. But our recognition has gone, and our recall and accuracy has gone from 100% to 20 to 40%. So the woman in the first image is Meera Murati. She is the CTO of OpenAI, followed by Lane Perkins. We use her product every day, a CEO of Canva. Of course, there is recognition for Sheryl Sandberg, ex-COO of Facebook. The fourth image is from the Facebook Meta family, Fiji Sumo. She was the CEO of Instacart and currently the CEO of applications at OpenAI. The last image. It depends how long you have been in technology, and if it has been a while, you would recognize her as the former CEO of Big Blue, the woman to break the glass ceiling, Ginny Rometty, CEO of IBM, ex-CEO of IBM. If I go back to this data set, and you ask me to double the data set, or be ambitious and make it 25x bigger, many in the room will be able to identify all images. But this is some of the most visible women in the room. I have run this experiment a couple of dozen times, and never has the accuracy been 100%. LLMs are built on our training data. And if, as humans, we don't have enough data points for recognition, then LLMs can do no better. And now I want to show you the scope of the problem, because we need to understand what's going on in our communities, what's going on in this system that we are building together. So I'm not saying there are 100% men in data and AI. What do you think is the number of women in data and AI? What piece of the pie belongs to them? Can you put that in the chat? Do you think it's 30? 40? All right, I won't keep you guessing. Of all the roles in data and AI, women just have 22% share. For most people, it's very surprising. We know that there is a disparity. We know this is not equal, but for most of us, we don't realize the number is this bad. Which makes me go back to those five amazing women that were building their careers in computer science. They may have something. Yes, there is good representation in FANG companies and leading technology places. But the data is telling us otherwise. Then I wanted to double click on this and see if this is just the problem for data in AI. How was the other scientific community doing? Unfortunately, this problem prevails in the whole industry. At Python, we're doing worse than the average. So, of all the open source commits, women are responsible only for 3% of those commits. This is a horrific number. It's a wake up call. We want to take some action. But what is that action? And this is where the engineering frameworks come to the rescue. This is a slide people love to click. I'm going to put it on the screen for 5 seconds because in working 2 years and researching this problem, I accidentally discovered this framework. But this is exactly the framework you need to build products in the age of AI, to build communities, to build services in the age of AI. It's really simple 5-step process. You have a problem, you break it down into component pieces. You understand what's going on in the problem. And once you know what is causing the problem, then you build a wireframe. You look at the building blocks, and from there you build a solution. Then you have a prototype. Your prototype is your minimum viable product. You're testing it in the market, you're testing it in the real world. If it works, that's amazing. If it's not, then you go back to the drawing board to your wireframe step. And finally, if it works really well, then you launch it and you scale it. So, this is my 2.5 years of research, 2 years of research actually. And I'm going to cover it in the next 10 minutes. This is going to be a roller coaster ride. Let's get started. Everyone ready for the velocity? Okay, let's get going. This is where I started at PyData Global 2024. These were the numbers I had. And I knew this is not good, but then we need to dig deeper and understand what causes this. What is the reason? And members from DSet 1 are very well represented, but members of DSet 2 did the picture. 3 key reasons. The first, it comes to us from the World Economic Forum. An umbrella term, information communication technology. That is all of your computer science, AI, data science, neatly stacked. Now, if you look at the completion rate, I'm going to get my pen in here, between men and women. Let me get a better color. There's a 350% gap. Women are 3.5x less likely to graduate in computer science. That means we are missing Amira Murati. That means ChatGPT never happened. It means we're missing critical elements from the pipeline. Remember, it was Charles Babbage that had the first computer, but it was Augustus Ada, the world's first computer programmer. So we need members from dataset 2. Okay, that's reason number 1. Number two, this again comes to us from the World Economic Forum. When women go to work in the US alone, which is on the top quartile of the 144 countries that the World Economic Forum studies, it is a 21% gap. Earning gap. Same role, same job, but 21% less payments. And the final, this come to us from IBM Insights. So IBM tells us that 51% of business leaders agree that advancing women into leadership roles is the key to building ethical, inclusive technology. But when we go in the real world, only a third of the companies involve women in decision making, leaving out two-thirds of women from decision making. And that hinders inclusive technological development. If you've been following along and you do the integral of this, it's a messy number. By the time women reach mid career, 50% of them leave STEM because of lack of support. This is the what of it. This is the problem. Now you must be wondering, so what? How does it matter to you? How does it matter to me? How does it matter to our PyData community, our organizations we work at? All right. This is how it matters. You have two projects, A and B. And project A has members from both dataset 1 and 2, males and females. And B only has dataset 1. Innovation is going to go down by 45% for dataset 2, for dataset B. And similarly, business performance and your profitability is going to go down by 21%. If you are a leader, if you are maintaining a library, if you are in a project, why would you want a project to fail from the start? Why would you want it to have a lower ROI, a lower innovation? And then data again from McKinsey tells us that the balanced team will have 8.5% higher bottom line. I could stand here all day and share data points from my research over and over and over again, and hundreds of data points. But as my good friend and the president of the Global Women Summit, Irene Netavidat says, we do not need yet another data point to show that women matter. We need to act on the data we have to close this gap. Because according to the World Economic Forum and United Nations, it is going to take us 130 years to close this gap. If we do not act now, it's never going to happen in your or my lifeline. And then there is a bigger impact to this. When we build systems that don't have members from dataset 2, then it's the woman's health, it's the woman's livelihood, and it's literally their lives that are affected. What do I mean? Look at the biases in the LLM. Let's start with the medical research bias. I'm sharing one data point. I'm sure you know many more. So this is a 2021 startup. It's doing phenomenal work using AI to have a diagnostic tool for heart condition. Works really well, 90% accuracy, except for women. Now, this should make you think. Technology is gender agnostic. Why is the model hallucinating for women? Because it's predominantly trained on male data, missing critical signs that appear differently for women. Signs that may not have been popularized by the media. For example, when you think of a heart attack, what do you think? Probably pain in your left arm, chest pain. Well, think about this. These signs appear differently in women. So the next time you see some woman with a jaw pain, feeling lightheaded, nauseous, that could be a sign of a heart attack. In fact, if you see this, please make sure to take that woman to ER. You might end up saving a life. If we don't know these symptoms, the LLMs and the models that are based on training data from real world don't know them either. Second, this is about the livelihood. 60% of AI systems replicate existing workplace practices, which means there are a lot more data points from data set one. There are a lot more Zuckerbergs, there are a lot more Bill Gates, there are a lot more Wongs, Jensen Wongs in the world that are in CEO roles. So imagine a highly qualified woman from dataset 2 doesn't get a role because there isn't enough training data. This has been proven in LLMs. So if you take a gender neutral language like Turkish and say this is a doctor, the LLM in English would translate it to he is a doctor. This is a nurse, she is a nurse. See the disparity? He is a doctor, she is a nurse. All right, double click on this. Look at all of your assistants: Siri, Alexa, all female sounding names. Why not Bob or Roger? We are training the LLMs to think assistant roles belong to women, power roles belong to men. And we close out the opportunity for data set 2 to come and take a leading role. Right now, in 2025, there is an experiment going on. I urge everyone to take a look at it. Go to LinkedIn, search up Cindy Gallup. Cindy says she is the Michael Bay of business. And she's doing this research where a couple of women are changing for a day, a week, a month their identity on LinkedIn. They are turning from women to men. And result after result after result is proving the same thing, that their impressions and their posts grow by 1,000%. This is not the model's fault. It is following the best practices from the training data. Finally, it's the safety on the line. When we are determining who gets deported, who goes to jail, whose visa gets denied because of facial recognition, data from IBM tells us that facial recognition errors are 35% higher for women of color. We cannot build inclusive pipelines. Our pipelines are broken when we don't include 50% of the population. Okay, this was my finding, and this is not right. We know something needs to be done about it. So, how do we build a model around it? And that's where the wireframing came. So, for the next about 3 months, I was looking at 24 engineering pipelines and seeing what building blocks I could have from there to match with my problems and sort of have a framework of sorts. So these are some of the largest and most recognized companies that are building engineering pipelines focused on dataset 2. I'll keep it here. Lots of people like to take a picture of this if you want to. This is your moment. Another 2 seconds. All right. And from here, this was a rough mapping of the framework. So the first thing is we looked at the 350% delta in education. So what everyone does right in these 24 groups is focusing on education and training. That translates into real world impacts. Reshma Sujani, she started the Girls Who Code movement. And 20 years later, we know that Girls Who Code graduates are 5 times as likely to graduate with an information communication technology degree. Reverse is very easy. It doesn't have to take 130 years. One of my other favorites is the ADA Developers Academy. It's free of cost to young and aspiring women in software engineering. For 6 months, they get trained and they get education in software engineering. For the next 5 months, they go into internship. And ADs are landing everywhere in FANG. Google, Microsoft, IBM, Salesforce, you name it. ADs are there. Now, the important thing with this is once we as communities, we as groups, we as organizations invest in education and training, not just dataset 2 benefit from it, also dataset 1 does. And we see some amazing things like first gen students, people that are going to college for the first time, people that are breaking into tech. That's the first pillar. The second one is employment. We saw that delta of 21% in the wage gap. Certainly not good. One organization that's doing it wonderfully well is Salesforce. And they have an amazing program called Salary Audit. So they're going to see it's a similar role. It shouldn't be dependent on gender because technology is gender neutral. If you're doing the right job, your gender shouldn't matter how much you're paid. So they correct exactly that problem. If there is a pay disparity, they correct it. That's the second way. One of my favorite examples from Amazon is our ERG, Employee Resource Group. It's one of the 13 recognized employee resource groups called Women at Amazon. It's in this group that I go to be mentored by vice presidents and senior women. But I go there to play my part and help the next generation of developers build their careers. So, employment is the second pillar. The third one, community, community, community. One of the biggest benefits of this event, PyData, is that the community comes together. We have shared learning, we have opportunities for mentoring. We can have not one, but many ideas that can change the trajectory of our career forever. So, the third pillar is around community building. These pipelines work really well. Put it in the chat or raise your hand if a community has transformed your career. Awesome. The fourth pillar I saw is male allies. I'm not here to say we are here because of the problem in dataset 1. No. But I'm definitely here to share that United Nations Women tells us that male allies really moves the needle. So they actually have a program called He for She. The global population is 9 billion and whooping 1 million people have signed up for He for She program. That's 11% of global population. In a world where we rarely agree on things, He for She program has a global participation of 11%. And final pillar is policy making. Now, policy is where the leadership comes in. It can be your CEO, it can be your S team, V team, leaders in your organization. They look at these 4 pillars, they take decisions, and that makes all the difference. Remember that number 8.5% of profitability or innovation going up by 45%, or bottom line improving by 25%, and so on. So this is what is working. Now that we know the problem, and now that we know it's there and how to solve it, this is a 5-step framework. Then there is a step called dog fooding. Anyone know what dog fooding is? That's why they don't give software engineers any more marketing roles. We cannot write our own slogans. We cannot, because dog fooding refers to testing your own product before giving it out to the public. So I had that what if moment, you know, if this is the problem, this is the kind of solution, will it work in the real world? Research is great. These principles are great, but I can't share it with anyone if it doesn't work. So right after PyData Global 24, I did another 7-month research. And this research was in the real world. There was a group called Women in AI that I started as a lone researcher. And then partners from IBM joined us. They gave us the platform, they gave us the training, they gave us the community. So in the first 3 months, I was able to start with 14 members, roughly bringing 3 members every month. And then once the momentum built, without any marketing, any media, any social promotion, with a single LinkedIn post, we went, I'm just getting my pen here, from 14 to 39 overnight. That is a hockey stick growth. And friends, that is 180% overnight growth. Communities were interested. Organizations were interested. In the age of AI, anyone can start a product, anyone can build a product. But how do you get that kind of growth? And more importantly, do you have retention? So our retention numbers after 1 year are 98%. The people were really excited and they wanted to see. We don't have to guess the reasons for that because we know this is a scientific process. I wasn't here to raise money in Silicon Valley. I was here to do research. So I have the data. And the data shows that the number one reason people came to us, unsurprisingly, is to learn AI and Python. You want to build a product? There is your winning combination, AI and Python. You want to build a service? AI and Python. Community? Have those two elements. But there's a nuance in that. There's a finer point. And that is 76% people came to us not just because of that. A lot of other groups were offering that. There was a mechanism built into it. There was a monthly cadence of events that we were doing, of workshops that we were holding, of mentoring that we were doing, which is why people didn't just come to us, they stayed with us. The second thing, this number two reason people came to us was for community. Gone are the days when you were a lone programmer sitting on your terminal. If you want to build a product, a service in the age of AI, you need to build it with your community. You want to build it with people that support you. So that was the second reason. As a result of this, a framework was refined. But before that, since the MVP did so well, then we went into launch stage. And this was one of the defining moments of my research and probably in my AI career. I presented my proposal to SciPy, and that got accepted, which was a research on this. And I was invited to write a 6,000 word paper. And that paper is here, but that meant a lot more research. So this was full on scientific academic research. I started with my research questions. Why is it that there's a difference in our training pipelines of dataset 1 and dataset 2? How large is that gap? Are there factors that keep members of dataset 2 or the women out? Third question is, can we close the gap? And the most important question is, how can we take part in this? And how can we make the change? Now, this is my literature review. I'm going to put it up for the next 10 seconds. I don't expect anyone to be an expert in this. But if you're looking at this slide, look at the first and the last row. So for data set 1, we have 100% opportunities. For data set 2, our range is between 2 and 27%, approximately 25%. That means if you have 4 seats and equal population, you're just going to give one seat, 1 in 4, to a woman, to a member of data set 2, despite her ability, despite her skill. And that means we are closing the opportunity. So there has to be some explanatory factors. Again, these two are easiest to solve. The first is the pipeline issue. How can that be solved? Why is the pipeline 3.5x smaller for women? And how do you reverse it? You reverse it by mentoring. One of the things those 5 women told us was there aren't enough female role models. How do you change that? Have a mentoring program. And that mentoring program doesn't just help dataset 2, it also helps dataset 1. Now, if you want to correct your algorithmic bias, then you just work on these first 4 factors. Now, I'm going to double click on these 3 factors because they're surprising for members of dataset 1 and dataset 2. Gatekeeping. I didn't expect going into this research that if the pull request had a gender identity known and the gender was female, it would take 2x longer. But that's what happened. Same thing for jobs, and same thing if you are a female author. Your paper gets twice as long to get accepted. You want to fix that? Bring a male co author. And the greatest part this changes is by awareness. Once you don't know what's happening in the system, you realize what's happening in the system and you can correct it. That's the easiest way. Psychological safety. You would think, as the chair of the Code of Conduct Working Group, the max we hear from dataset 2 is about sexual harassment or physical harassment. No. Research shows that the biggest problem is microaggression. How does a microaggression look like? Because we first need to identify it to correct it. When a member of dataset 2 gives an opinion, an idea, nobody pays attention. The same idea 5 minutes later is reiterated by member of dataset 1. A man says the same thing and everybody nods. That is microaggression. It's a form of it. Another is when a woman gives her view and something like, can you show me your data? Are you sure? These things affect women's psychological safety and leads them to imposter syndrome. There are quick corrections. Have anonymous ideas and reviews. And give weight to members of dataset 1 based on data. Finally, this one comes to us from United Nations Women. They say when men go to work, they go to work. When women go to work, they go to work with the responsibility of nest building. The very young and the very old are the responsibility of women. How do you correct that? Flexible working hours. When you take things into account for dataset 1 and 2, and you can finally solve the problem. As we are racing towards the end, I have this image. How many of you recognize her? The woman with the proud NASA badge. Put it in the chat. Who is she? This is Dr. Sally Ride, the first woman astronaut that the United States sent into space on an Apollo mission. She is the perfect brand ambassador for the framework, which is coming after 2 years of research, a very scientific, rigorous process. From 5 steps, we have just gone to 3. There are 3 pillars if you want to have inclusive training pipelines: visibility, invitation, mechanism, the WIM framework. Visibility, who's seen? Invitation, who feels welcome? Mechanism, what support exists. I'm going to keep it there for about 10 seconds if you want to clip a photo of it. This is the scientific paper. I can't wait to see what this community does with the paper, how you build on the paper. If you are from research, go ahead, build on it. It has an open MIT license. Anyone can use it. It's only 17 pages of research. So you can use it and you can build on it in your organizations, in your communities, in your groups, in your practices. And now we come to the close with the question, so what can the PyData community do? How do we build better pipelines for you, for me, for a future generation of 1 billion developers? Actions come in 3 steps: small, medium, and long term. This is the short term actions. Plug and play. The first thing that you can do: look at your code of conduct, your newcomer guides, your blueprint. Research has shown that just putting a line, everyone is welcome. If you're new, say hi, take this one action. The more concrete, the more your engagement goes up by 25, 50, 75%. And then number 2, as data folks, we are obsessed with KPIs. We are obsessed with ROIs and indices and churn, adoption metrics. If we include WIM metrics, like who's a new person in here? Who is someone that has not contributed before? In fact, at Amazon, in the early days of development, there used to be a seat in the team which was called the seat of the customer, because we wanted to build from the point of view of the customer as well. So this was a symbolic seat that was reserved for them. So have a seat for dataset 2, have a seat for your customer, have a seat for someone that has not contributed before. Number 3, again, as data scientists, as developers, as builders, we love sprints. We love to see what we can pack in a short 1 week, 2 weeks, 5 days, 10 days, 15 days. What can we do? Once a year, if one of your sprints could be about inclusion, what is the composition of a group? Who is a new member in the group? Who is the first time in the group? Then you build a better product. You build a product that serves everyone, the whole of your community, not just some element of your community. If you have about 6 to 18 months, these are medium-term actions. If you just take one thing from here, please do mentor matching. 6 weeks is enough. Bring in a mentor. This works for dataset 1, dataset 2. This can literally improve the career trajectory. I want to go on number 5 real quick. If you have events and you have 5 seats, please give a seat to member of dataset 2. Give a seat to someone new. The pushback I get is, what if they don't turn up? 95% of the time they turn up, 5% of the time it's worth the risk. Huge shout out to PyData and PyData Global, because they provide us shared learning opportunities like today. So that's number 7. Long-term actions. If you go there, you can have contributor paths, you can have ecosystems, you can have community adoption. But I'm just going to focus on number 11, which is action each and every one of us can take, and that is sharing. Most of us don't share. Most of us don't raise our hands. Most of us don't ask that question. Most of us don't engage because we think our voice is not powerful enough. And this is more true for members of dataset too. But I'm here to tell you a scientific principle from the chaos theory called the butterfly effect. It is said that the fluttering of the wings of a butterfly in one continent can cause a tornado in another. Imagine what your, my, and the PyData Global's actions today can do. Whatever you do, take one action, talk to someone, build a connection, do mentoring, or be mentored. Whatever you do, take action today. And with that, I'm not saying thank you for your time and open for questions, but really open for ideas, suggestions, collaboration. I just want to take 30 seconds and say, if this moved the needle, please connect with me. I'd love to know where you're joining us from, or how many cups of coffee you had today, or how this event shaped you. But thank you so much for your time. Love to connect with you. And if you think this is something that we could do, would love to do that with you. Thank you.
Let's all give Noor a round of applause. Thank you so much. How can people connect with you? How would you recommend they do that?
Oh, I can go back over here. I'm not sure. Am I sharing the screen?
Yep.
Okay, that's the QR code.
Okay. Yeah, please. Like I said, this is very inspiring. So thank you so much. And yeah, I think we should take her up on the offer and connect. Obviously, there's a lot that we can do with this information, and it doesn't start right here today. But if we can continue to work as a community, then yeah, we can continue to grow. So yeah, I think this is a great way to wrap up our PyData Global, and hopefully we can all take something with us from here, and I know I will. But yeah, in the last 2 minutes, are there any questions or discussion points we want to ask now or start? Otherwise, like we said, this is not the end, just the start of this conversation. All right, let's give one more round of applause.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you,
Looking
Noor.
forward to connection with everyone.
Yeah.
And if there's any way, love to connect.
Awesome. Thank you again. Let's wrap up this session, and we'll see you for the last few talks this afternoon. But Noor, thank you very much.